we're going to make checkerboard cookies, and our flavors are going to be vanilla and chocolate. And to start, you need to have really soft butter. So I've been creaming this butter with a spatula up against the side of this bowl. So there's no other ingredients in here yet, just the butter. And I'm now going to add the confectioner sugar. And I'm using confectioner sugar because it's really just going to dissolve right into the butter. And I'm going to work that together. And I'm just going to put this down so it's not noisy, so you can hear me. And I'm basically just going to mix this together until I see no more sugar. Just like this. You can certainly do this in a machine, in a stand mixer, or even a hand mixer, but you're not going to get that really sandy type sabla feel in your mouth. So you really want to try to do this by hand if you can. It really does make a difference. So that's just about ready. And this goes pretty quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two different kinds of doughs. We're going to roll them out into two rectangles, and we're going to cut those rectangles into strips, and then we're going to glue them together with egg wash. Okay, so now we're going to scrape the whole bowl down all the way around. Make sure you get every little bit, even that little bit there. Try to work as cleanly as you can. And I'm going to add my vanilla and my salt. Just going to work that in. And what's great about this is you can also freeze the dough, so you can make the doughs ahead if you're going to make them for a holiday or just to have cookies in your freezer. You can make these ahead and keep them in the freezer for at least 2 months. So now my salt and my vanilla is in there. I'm going to add the secret ingredient, which is almond flour. That gives it a little crunch and just a really nice texture. Egg yolk and flour. And I'm just going to mix that together. In fact, I think I'm going to use my hands for that as well, because I really want to get a feel for this dough. So just go in there, move it around, and you're just going to mix it until it forms beautiful dough. You can also add, instead of extract, you can add vanilla bean paste, or if you are lucky enough to have a whole fresh vanilla bean, you can use a vanilla bean. You can also add different extracts to it, like lemon, almond, even peppermint, coconut, whatever flavor you want. It's pretty versatile. So you see how nice this comes together. Okay. So once this comes together, I'm just going to take it out of the bowl, and I'm going to pat it into a rectangular shape, because when I roll it out, I'm going to roll this into a rectangle. And so if I help myself by doing this now, that's half the battle. So I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make the chocolate dough for you. Okay, so we're going to make the chocolate version now. And just like I did before, I've creamed the butter a little bit first, make sure it's super soft. And I've added the confectioner sugar. And I'm just going to get that together until I see no more sugar. And then we'll add the rest of the ingredients just like I did with the vanilla, only this time we will add some cocoa powder to it. And you want to try to use the best cocoa powder you can find for this, because the chocolate's sort of the star of the show. Okay, so that looks great. I'm going to put vanilla and salt, let that dissolve in there. Mix it around. Then we're going to add the remainder of the ingredients. Again, we're adding almond flour. And this is all equal amounts. The same that we added for the vanilla is the same amounts we're going to add for the chocolate. The only difference is the cocoa powder. Okay, so I'm going to just mix it a little bit first with a spatula, and then I'm going to get in there and mix it with my hands. Then we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to form it into a rectangle, wrap it in plastic wrap, let it sit in the fridge for about an hour or so. And if at any time during this recipe when you're making these cookies, or really any kind of dough, if your kitchen is really warm, then at any point during the recipe you can take your dough, put it on a piece of parchment or in a piece of plastic wrap, just put it right in the refrigerator for another 10 minutes or so, let it firm up, and continue with the recipe. You don't want to be working with soggy doughs because they're going to lose their shape and they will be crying in the kitchen, and there really shouldn't be any crying in the kitchen because this is our happy place. So you can see it comes together quite nicely. And it is a messy job, but it's really fun. And I'm just going to make sure that everything is mixed in before I turn it into my plastic wrap. You don't want to see any little streaks of butter. Okay. I'm going to take my piece of plastic wrap. Pat it down, sort of a rectangular shape. Then I'm going to take the plastic wrap, push it down. That's going to help me maintain that shape, because we're going to roll this into an 8x3 rectangle. Then we're going to refrigerate that rectangle again, and then we'll cut it into strips and glue them together. So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put this in my refrigerator. Okay, so I've just trimmed one side of my vanilla dough. I've rolled it out in an 8x3 rectangle, and the rectangle is about 1/4 inch thick. Now we have to slice it into strips. And so what I do is I love this clear ruler, and I really have a dedicated ruler in my kitchen at all times that is clear, and I only use it for food. So it costs next to nothing, and it's just a really good thing to have because you can see the doughs underneath the ruler, and it's very, very helpful. So if you can see this, I've already scored some of this into strips, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'm just going to take the ruler, put it right up against the edge of the dough, right here. And then I'm just going to mark each centimeter. So I'm going to cut it into centimeter strips, 1 centimeter each. And I need 5 strips of vanilla, and I need 4 strips of chocolate. And again, I'm going to keep reminding you throughout this recipe that at any time, if your kitchen is warm and your dough gets soft, you're just going to put it right in the fridge or even the freezer for a couple of minutes to firm it up. So now I'm ready to cut, and then again I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm just going to place it right where the marks were, and I'm going to cut this into strips, and it makes it so much easier doing it this way. And I'm using a nice large chef's knife to do it. And this keeps everything nice and steady. I can see the dough underneath. I can see that my dough is getting a little bit soft because we're taping this with a few lights, but I'm going to try to work quickly. So I'm going to keep slicing this dough. I'm going to get 5 strips, and then I'm going to refrigerate it for about 5 minutes just to firm it up. Then I'm going to do the same with my chocolate, and then we will come back and we will put it all together. Okay, so now we're going to build our checkerboard. I'm going to start by just placing 1 strip of vanilla in, and then I'm going to take my one piece of the chocolate, and I'm going to break it apart a little bit here. You just want to be careful. If they break a little, it's okay. I break them all the time. You can just glue them right back together. So I'm taking a little bit of my egg wash. Notice what I'm doing with the brush. I'm pushing it up against here. I don't want lots and lots of egg wash on this. I just want a little bit to act as glue so they'll stick together. I'm going to take a piece of the chocolate, put it right next to it. Don't worry if they're not exactly even because everything is going to get trimmed. A little bit of egg wash. And then another piece of vanilla next to that. Just like that. Now, when you get to this point, if you feel like the heights are not even, you can take your rolling pin and just gently, very gently, just roll it a little bit over the parts that you feel are a little thick so that it won't look uneven when you start to build it. So then you just push this together like that. And now I'm going to glue the top part, just like that. And then I'm going to put chocolate on top. Glue the sides a little bit. And then we're just going to keep building this until we have 3 full rows of chocolate and vanilla. And when I get to the end, we'll come back and we'll take a look at how we're going to wrap this with another piece of cookie dough. Okay, so we're ready to put the last strip of vanilla in, and we're going to even it out. Just going to press just like this. Then I'm going to take my plastic wrap and I'm going to wrap this up just like that. So you can see it's much better to do this with plastic wrap because you'll see what we're going to do next, and it's going to be very helpful to have this in plastic. I'm going to start making the chocolate dough that's going to surround this whole block of cookie dough. But in order to do that, I need to measure this, so I am going to take my favorite ruler and I'm going to measure it across. So this is about 1 inch across each way, right? So we know it should be about 4 inches wide, and we know that this is about 8, so I'm going to go to about 9 inches long. So I'm going to take the leftover chocolate dough and I'm going to put it between a piece of parchment. I'm not going to use any extra flour. And this is pretty long, so I already have my length, so you can measure it, right? It's exactly where it needs to be. So now I just need to work on the width. So when I fold it, I'm going to leave some room so that, excuse me, so when it rolls out, I have room for it to grow. And I'm just going to lightly tap. And pretty much after every pass, I'm going to pick up the parchment. So I'm just going to roll back and forth, pick it up, back down, roll it over. When I'm rolling this way, I'm not really pressing too hard, so I don't want to lengthen it much. I just want to get this wide enough so I can wrap it right around. And I'm going to show you a good trick to make sure that you're going to have enough dough when you wrap it. Pick it up, make sure it's not sticking. And again, at any time, if this starts getting too soft, you just throw it right back in the refrigerator for a couple of minutes, or in the freezer for 5. In fact, I did that with my dough. I just put it right in the freezer for 5 minutes. Okay, so now, because I've wrapped this already in plastic wrap, I can kind of move this around. And I can take this and put it right here. And I can take this and push it over, and I can see that that's going to fit perfectly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush a little bit of egg wash on the chocolate part. And I'm probably going to need to trim it, so let me just measure a little bit here. Yeah, so I'm going to trim a little bit off. And we're going to save these scraps too. And we'll probably have to trim it again, but I'm going to put that right in the middle, actually, through the middle. And then with the parchment paper, turn it so you can see. I'm going to take it, I'm going to pull it up, and then I'm going to take my thumb and my index finger and other fingers on top of the actual cookie dough, and I'm going to pull so that I get a nice tight fit here. And then you pull back, and you can see that it's stuck, right? Then we're going to do it again on this side. I'm going to lift it up. Maybe if you want to, no, we'll do it this way so you can see it this way. We're going to lift it up again, up and over. Pull it back. And I'm going to take it, and I'm pushing up against the dough, and then I'm going to turn it because I want it to get square, just like this, and I'm just going to keep turning it so that I get these really nice right angles. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for at least an hour, if not overnight, and then when I come back, we will slice and bake it. Okay, so this has been chilling for at least an hour. You can see the seam side is down here. So I'm going to flip that right on the bottom here. And you can see a little bit of the checkerboard shape here. I'm just going to trim like literally probably 2 millimeters of dough off the ends. And you can see how beautiful that is. Trim it. Now you should have your oven preheated to 400 degrees. But I want to show you one thing. So see this one right here? So I need to just trim it just a little bit more until it's perfectly even. So you can, so every guest gets a great bite, and that's good. So now I'm going to slice them into 1/4 inch slices, and I'm going to put them about 1 inch apart, and I'm going to bake them at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. So let's see how they look. Look how cool they are. So if you wanted to do your checkerboard in a different way, you could totally start with chocolate. You could do more chocolate strips than vanilla and do it that way. You could add food coloring to the vanilla part, and those look pretty too. So I'm going to keep slicing, and we're going to bake them, and then we'll see how they turn out. Okay, so my checkerboard cookies are out of the oven, and as you can see from the top, the way to tell if they're done, you can look at the vanilla portion, and it should still be a little bit pale, maybe a little bit brown on the corners here, but the telltale sign is to flip it over, and as you can see, they have a beautiful brown color. And so when they come out of the oven, they're going to be a little bit soft, but they will firm up as they cool. And I think they're really great. So I'm gonna taste a little bit. And you can see all that beautiful almond flour in there. And you know, if you wanted to, you can switch out and you can put a little pistachio flour or hazelnut flour in there if you wanted to switch it. And so now I'm gonna give us a little taste. Very French. Love it. So I hope you enjoy these cookies.